The knock came while I was folding my shirts into a borrowed duffel. Measured. Official. I didn't jump. I'd already heard the sirens cut and idle 2 hours earlier. I knew the sound before it arrived. Authority wrapped in patience, the kind that waits for permission to ruin someone's night. I opened the door. The sheriff's eyes went past me, into the house I no longer belonged to. His jaw tightened, the way it does when a story doesn't line up with the furniture. Behind him, my wife stood rigid in the hallway, arms crossed, chin lifted, her certainties still intact. My stepdaughter hovered at the stairs, pale now, eyes too wide. She hadn't expected this part. "Sir," the sheriff said quietly, "we need to talk." I nodded, calm, cooperative, exactly how an innocent man looks when he's already bled out on the inside. 15 years collapsed into that moment. The marriage, the house, the way my name had sounded in my wife's mouth before it turned sharp. "Get out, you don't belong here." I left quietly because I always leave quietly. I learn everything before I move. I watch people long enough to know where to press. And tonight, the pressure had shifted. She didn't even ask me if it was true. That's the part that keeps replaying. Not the shouting, not the way her voice cracked when she said my name like it was contaminated. It was the absence of hesitation, the speed with which she chose a story that destroyed me over a man who had raised her child like his own. My stepdaughter's lie was surgical. She said I came into her room late, said I sat on the bed, said I said things. The details were vague in the places that mattered and vivid where they hurt most. A performance rehearsed in private. My wife listened. I watched her face change as the story settled in. Love didn't fight. Memory didn't argue. 15 years evaporated under the weight of fear. I denied it once, calmly. I didn't beg. I didn't yell. That would have been proof enough. She told me to pack, so I did. But denial is for people who still believe truth speaks for itself. I learned long ago that truth needs help, evidence, timing, teeth. When I crossed the threshold, suitcase in hand, I wasn't homeless. I was hunting. I didn't confront her. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't even text. I drove to a motel by the interstate and laid everything out on the bed. Phone records, credit card statements, old emails. 15 years leaves fingerprints everywhere if you know how to dust. The lie wasn't the first fracture. I saw it then, the way my stepdaughter's behavior had shifted months ago, the sudden secrecy, the deleted messages, the money she didn't have showing up in places it shouldn't. I pulled phone backups, cloud storage, shared accounts my wife forgot were still shared. What I found wasn't just a lie, it was a shield. She'd been seeing someone, older, married, someone who couldn't risk exposure, someone who needed a distraction if things went wrong. So she built one, me. I pulled surveillance footage from the neighbor's door cam, timestamps proving I was miles away the night she claimed I was in her room, gas station receipts, GPS logs, a clean, boring trail of innocence. Then I found the messages, her panic, her planning, the line that sealed it. If Mom believes it's him, they'll never look at us. I booked a DNA test too, not because I needed it, but because my wife would. The kind of truth that speaks in percentages. By the time dawn crept through the motel curtains, I had a file thick enough to bury them both. I slept anyway. I returned with the sheriff, not summoned, invited. My wife's face drained as the evidence surfaced piece by piece. The timestamps, the footage, the messages printed in cold ink, the DNA results she hadn't known she needed. My stepdaughter broke first, tears, denials, then silence. My wife collapsed slower. She didn't look at me. She stared at the papers like they were written in another language, like truth had betrayed her too. "I didn't know," she whispered. I said nothing. The sheriff cleared his throat. Procedures. consequences, words that finally meant something. When they led my stepdaughter away for questioning, she looked back at me. I didn't look away. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch her. I told my wife I'd already filed for divorce, that the house would sell, that my lawyer would handle communication, that forgiveness was irrelevant now. She reached for me. I stepped back, not out of anger, out of precision. You believed the easiest story, and it cost you everything. She crumpled. I walked out. I live alone now, quiet, ordered, clean. The truth didn't save my marriage. It didn't need to. It exposed what it was built on. Trust isn't something you ask for, it's something you prove, especially when the lie is convenient. They froze when the sheriff arrived. I didn't. I'd been cold for hours.